the subject we're going to discuss today is something I can almost bet that nobody here has heard because I've never heard about it myself. So I had to create it. Um, so we want to make this culture. And remember, we've been emphasizing over time that the only credible and sustainable way to build generational wealth in our families is through the process of patience. Okay, so we talked about the 4 P's earlier. The first P is you've got to have purpose. Second P is you've got to have a plan. The third P is that you've got to have a process to make it happen. And the fourth P is you've got to have patience. Every family, every individual who has ever built generational wealth, all the billionaires that we hear about today, all of them did it over a space of time. And then I found that the average was like 30 years. And then so 30 years is not bad to build generational wealth that is transferable across different generations. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. How do we make this culture? Because our conversations in the past have bordered a little bit on strategy. But for many of you here who are business owners, and then for some of you who may have worked with me, there's a famous quote by Peter Drucker that culture we eat strategy for breakfast, meaning that if you have a very, very powerful strategy, but you don't have the culture to support that strategy, it's going to fail. When I did my executive coaching certification in Sarasota, in Florida, the mini project I did, with my partner was around why some companies lasted for up to 1,000 years. There was actually a Japanese company that I studied that has been in business for more than 1,400 years. But here in Nigeria and in most parts of Africa, once the promoter of the business, the original founder of the business dies, the business typically dies with him. And so you no longer hear about all those Okeke and Sons West Africa that we used to see when I was growing up in the 70s. There were so many of them like that. Okonkwo and Sons, Alade and Sons, West Africa and all that, they no longer exist because when the original founders died, the business died. And then when we did that study for my executive coaching certification, we found very interesting insights, especially about family businesses. And culture had a lot to do with how businesses are able to go from one generation to the other and how wealth is able to pass from one generation to the other. So I'm going to share with you that framework. That framework is what I'm following because I'm also in the process. I haven't built wealth yet. I'm not there yet. But I have the patience, I have the process, I have the plan, and I have the purpose. Now we'll talk about the culture to sustain that. All right, but to get started as usual, let's introduce ourselves in the chat, and then the way we're going to do it is I would like every single person, please, every one of us in the chat. So type in the chat, what is the most significant money advice that someone ever gave you? Okay, you can also tell us who gave you the advice, and then tell us what money advice that changed your life, that influenced the way your relationship with money. All right, so everybody think about it, Be your teacher, be your mother, could be your father, could be a friend or whoever. What was the most, or what has been the most significant money advice that someone ever gave you? All right, Dixon says, always save to invest, never save to spend. And that was from your dad. It's fantastic. It's good. Okay. William says, your growth in finance should not quickly reflect on clothing and liability items. That's a very, very good one. Many of us fell into that trap. The more your salary increases, the more you buy clothes and then car and all those things. It's a typical money mistake that many people make. Okay. Taiwo's mom says delayed gratification. Okay. Nena says it was an advice on saving because I do not have the attitude on saving. After I lost my formal job, I did not have anything to fall back on and I suffered. But now I'm building the habit of saving. Very good on you. Good for you, Nena. Okay. And next says, best money advice was from my landlord long time ago. It's a teacher. Said one road, the enter market. Since then, I don't rely on my salary alone. That's very powerful. Sometimes, we get this money advice from even the most unexpected sources. Yeah, this was from landlord. Okay. And that was speaking to multiple streams of income. Esther says her late brother, oh, my condolences, Harding Orife told me to start saving from my salary and ensure that you own a house, even if it is in the village. Very, very powerful. Okay, so Nena says to save and invest. So the other thing is, all these things are they are not things that we do not know. They are not things that we do not know. Okay. Almost all the advice, all the pieces of advice that all of you indicated here talk about saving, talk about not spending everything that one earns, talk about investing. But why is this thing difficult? Can anybody tell us why is it so difficult to do these things? Because almost everyone you meet on the road or almost everybody here has also had someone that told us the same thing. And then if it was not a stranger, at least your mother, your father told you exactly the same thing. But why are people not doing it? Why is saving? Yes. Jibril, yes, you can unmute and tell us. This thing is so simple. Why are we not doing it? And we know it. Everybody knows it. But why are we not doing it?
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you for this wonderful session. Okay, sir, advice. I believe why people are not actually saving and investing is that most of our schools do not teach us how to invest and how to save. So it is just like it is easier said than done.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
schools are not teaching us. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Schools don't teach these things. All right,
Yes.
what else? Okay, anyone else? Okay, Nena says in the chat, because our wants are many and we always want to satisfy our wants. Well, the breaking news says that if we don't take that first step, we might as well just forget. We might as well just forget building generational wealth. So if we don't take that step, it won't happen. Okay. Yes, I see.
Good evening, sir. Please, what's the question?
Okay, after Famu, you were. Okay, Famu, you can.
Okay, good evening, sir. So on the part of investment, I feel it's because of lack of knowledge. Most people love to invest, but they don't really know how to invest. And also, the fear of hope my money will not just go with this investment. So I think it's also lack of knowledge on how to invest. That is one of the things that actually stop people from investing. Thank you.
Okay. So that's fair enough. Lack of knowledge. So I think as the people will, the first question before you joined, we were asking, that's our icebreaker question. We asked what was the most significant money advice someone ever gave you? And then majority of the people who answered in the chat said those two words, to save and to invest, not to spend everything. So the question was, everybody has heard this piece of advice somehow or the other, but why is it that we don't do it? And then given that that is the very first step to building wealth, because like somebody rightly said, if you cannot save money, the seed of greatness isn't in you. And so you find that people got this advice 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when they were children, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But their financial situation hasn't improved because they never did it. So we were asking, why is it that people know what to do, but they are not doing it? Okay. All right.
Okay. Can I make a contribution then?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to speak from personal experience. Mine wasn't that we did not, or I did not save or follow the advice, because right from growing up, you see how it's done from our own families, and then you now with education and all that, you begin to see, okay, invest for children future, college fund, this one, that one. Then those things are financial instrument or programs that the banks and everywhere they are projecting, showing you how you can do. So we did one with All States Bank. Where is the bank? So we did another one with LinkedIn. Where is the place? We did another one. Even the buying of investing in land like estates, they get into court. Some are still unresolved. So from my own experience, it wasn't that I did not save, but you said the inflation self alone erodes it completely. You're looking at what you were struggling to save. By the time the inflation hits, like this 2023 inflation, you look at the value of the money you thought you were saving to do something, it's not even enough to buy bread. So that is the challenge. In my own case, it's not that for lack of saving, is that these situations and in our own other places, these things, they take like 10 years, 20 years to happen. In our own, you can wake up in the morning and it has happened. So it is the society here that's happening. And the lack of policies, change of government policies that keep, making things, you don't know which way to go. So if you have the money in your hand, one of the things I know that investment worked with is paying school fees for children. At least when the children children are alive, the tax person will say it's an investment, even if you yourself didn't realize it was. Thank you.
All right. Okay, that's very, very good. So can anyone speak to, does anyone here also have a similar experience? If you did, how did you handle that? Because we're actually in a classroom, to learn from these experiences. Okay, hello, Esther. Yes, your hand is up. You can speak.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Esther.
Mine was issues of integrity. So I started buying shares maybe from the third year when I started working, hoping that by the time I've worked like 20 years, I would have accumulated enough shares that would, towards my retirement will now give me dividend. Then in 2008, the stock market just went down, and it was as a result of integrity issues, people manipulating the market and all of that. That was one. Then I now said, okay, I wasn't going to buy shares anymore because these people can manipulate. Let me go and buy landed property, buy lands and keep. And you keep having these issues of you get there, they call you, somebody's building on your land, and all of this, It bothered me for a long time. This is the only country where something you have bought can be sold to another person. It's just horrible. So these are the things actually affecting people, not that people can't put away a bit of their savings. The people, we have integrity issues. We have issues. How can you sell? In fact, the one in Aja, I asked the man, but you sold the land to me. He said he wants to refund my money. I didn't answer him for years. He will call me, he wants to refund. I said, I don't understand you. Can you go to the market, buy something, and the seller will not tell you to bring it back? What are you doing? I said, if you want to take it, you can keep it. But you know that we're operating under one sky. So the guy he will be calling to beg. Obviously, he's seen someone else who was willing to pay higher for the land and all of that. And I don't know how somehow one day he got maybe an account number from maybe the person who introduced me to him, and he just paid in some money to me. I never called him back or anything, but you see, we have issues with integrity as a people. And that is what is reflecting in every area of our society. We are not truthful. We are not honest. We love money. And we can do anything for money. Which society grows that way? No. No. And that's the hopelessness that is driving every young person to go and look for a better place. For me, my desire was to live in a village, in a secure village. I do my farm, get my retirement benefit, maybe give back to people within that locality. But I don't know whether I can still do that. How can we just destroy what we had? We had a good life here. My classmates left since 20-something years ago. They went to America, Canada. I refused to leave, hoping that with the few investment and savings I was putting aside, but all of that is nothing today. So, integrity is a big issue. Thank you.
Okay. So, Ngozi, did I capture your...
No, government policies.
Government policy.
That should stand next to integrity.
Okay.
And lack of continuity, because
what do you mean by lack of continuity?
Okay, like apart from the policies, when the new government comes, they just throw away everything that the other one was doing, and they will start something. It takes them like 2.5 years or 3 to steal enough to begin to say, hey, what was it that we said we would do? Then the next thing, they start contesting for the next election. Nothing happens. Then the policy that you bought into, whatever, which one? There are so many of them that they have that they'll bring and then change it. So the question of saving, in fact, we all have done very well in this system, because this is a system that has no absolutely no encouragement for entrepreneurs or even those who want to honestly work and retire. Where are the pensions? Where are the things? So those things that you thought that would work, that work in other places, they're not here, you know. So if you have the money in your hand, you're really wondering, what do I do now? You buy the property, like in her case, all of us are on the mess of property. I can't even count my own. In whether in Lagos or in the East, so where are they not reselling the land? It's everywhere.
Okay.
Then if you buy in the North, you it's not an investment because they won't buy it back from you when you want to sell.
Okay. Bad investment experiences seems to be very common to. Okay. All right. Anyone else?
I think that so the insider trading and dishonesty is within that integrity matter, right?
Yes.
Insider trading is the one of the worst ones.
All right. Okay. Does anyone else have a similar experience or something totally different? Does anybody else have like a different experience? Most of these ones here are negative, but has anybody, including the people who have shared, have you had like one positive experience apart from all these ones, or were all of them like, if they were 100 investments, it was 100, it's just 100 bad? Was there like 10 that were good or something? Anybody? Is there any positive experience?
The only, for me personally, the only investments that I would say is good as but we also had to give it up was it wasn't even good. It was palm plantation. We did. You know, bro, you wouldn't understand, you wouldn't know all the things we ever had put our hand in this world.
Yeah.
So that one didn't yield anything, but at least the land and the palms were there. Before we get there, other people have harvested the same. So the fruits. So that was that one. So would I call that one here? Because ultimately, we sold in 2020. We sold it in 2020. So I will say, okay, that one. Then, like I said again, if you have children, invest in your children, both morally and academically. And, that's children education. And I'm mentioning it because my mom used to go and do her taxes. And one time she mentioned that she had children overseas. all the time she had been going without mentioning that. When she mentioned it, the taxman put it as investment.
Okay.
So, and they taxed her more. So if you have your children, please do their investment. I find that one positive personally. Okay. It has worked for me.
Okay. So that makes sense because if you can, as part of generating family wealth, which is what we're discussing, we'll find that education is a major part of it. So we'll get to that. Who else has had any positive experience at all in this country that we can learn from? Any positive money experience? Your job, your employment, whatever. Any positive experience at all? Or is everything? Yes, let's go for it.
Yeah, so there have been some, irrespective of the losses, there have also been some investment, like some of the shares that I didn't sell. I eventually was able to I get dividend from them on a yearly basis. And sometimes when I just feel like, oh, I don't have money, then I'll just see an alert. No matter how little, it gladdens my heart to know that because I put certain Naira away some years back, when I least expect it, I still just get something. There are shares on which I've gotten more than twice the amount, to over 200% that I invested in them. And they also came in handy in some cases. Maybe I needed to solve certain issues. I could trade some in, get money, do it, and and many other things. I was also able to, our goals are different.
Right.
Like you were talking about seeing the world. When I wanted to go to Europe for the first time, I didn't have money. In fact, when the shares started going down, I just said before they will just erode all my shares away, I had to sell some. I put the money in my account, bought a ticket, and went to England. I was happy. I wouldn't have been able to do it from my salary. But because of those things, those shares, I was able to do it. Then the little savings that I had in my office cooperative was part of the money, yes, that we use in decking the house we have in the village now. So it kind of came in handy, I was able to pull the money from the cooperative and deck the house. And with it, actually, those little savings had gone a long way to help us build a small house in the village, which was one of the advice my elder brother gave to me and said, because when they started selling the lands in Lagos, I now felt that maybe if we go to my husband's place and just do something, nobody will do that to us. Unfortunately, we bought the land, and because of the Lagos experience, we were able to just pull some things together and start. And today there's a house standing there. So it's not all negative, but the aspect of it that is disheartening is that when you save, your savings are eroded, your pensions are eroded. It's frightening.
Okay.
It's just frightening.
Very, very good. Okay, so we can see the red experiences by the left, and then the right one, the positive experiences on the right. And I like that you mentioned office cooperatives. I would like anyone else in the house to speak to how office cooperatives have actually helped you to preserve wealth and to build wealth. Anyone else experience office cooperative? Because I do know that when I was working with Shell and Chevron, to be honest, the cooperatives were incredible lifesavers, especially for people who engaged with the cooperative in building assets and not liabilities. I started with liabilities buying car, which the cooperatives will give you, but the cooperatives also had programs for buying land, purchasing assets, and things like that. So I would like someone to speak to the power of cooperatives, because I think that might actually hold some secret for one or two people here, like it's the way forward. Because even in the village, some of these villages are doing some incredible things quietly. I noticed going to some of the village markets that somebody goes around with a little notebook to all these sellers, all these women selling pepper, selling crayfish, selling vegetables, and they will give them 100 Naira or 200 Naira. They'll make that entry. It's so common in other markets here. And I've also seen cases where 10 people come together and they give each other, like they say that every month they will pay 50,000 Naira and they will give it to somebody. So for the next 10 months, each person will get 500,000 naira, like bulk money that they can use to do something. And I thought these are some ingenious financial innovations that people have used to overcome serious difficulties. So I'd like someone to actually share some of this. How are you able to, what are your experiences? Okay, I see Stephen's hand up. Yes, please unmute and speak.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, sir. Mine is not actually cooperative. Mine is different. I don't know if I'm permitted to speak on something else that is not
Please go
what
ahead.
you asked us to speak.
No. Go ahead. It's like,
yeah. Mine experience is I decided to do, like the other person said, that either the mom or the dad taught him or her not to do just one thing. There's not one road that leads to the market. Mine was I decided to start doing something else with my savings while I was working then in the bank. I started to start a fish farm. To be saving every month, be putting up.
Did we lose you? Did we lose Stephen? Or am I the one that's frozen?
I can hear you, but I don't know about whether he's...
All right, looks like...
I had little experience. I had to go for 3 times. Hello, sir.
Oh, we lost you.
Hello.
He's back.
Okay, go ahead, Stephen. We lost you for like a minute. Go ahead, Stephen. Okay, looks like we've lost him again. Okay. Now, let's go on. Why hoping that Stephen...
Oh, sorry, sir. I said over time, farm, and with time, I was able to, with that, side investments to make the savings. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we missed much of what you said, but I think we did hear about your fish farm, and then using that for savings or something like that. Okay, now let's look at all this.
Sorry, please, can we hear what he said happened to the fish farm?
I said initially when I started, because I had little experience, all the fishes died. I went to learn more about the business. The second time, I also had a problem because my water was bad. My water was not tested. So, but at the third time, I started making profit. And with time, over time, I was able to save enough money to buy land from that side business. I was saving from my salary and I was putting in there in the fish business. Over time, I was able to raise enough money to buy land. Yeah, that's my own experience.
Fantastic. So there was persistence. And I think one insight I'm getting from what you are talking about, and which actually segues into all these red things that we see here. When we look at that scripture, my people perish for lack of knowledge, I think we underestimate it. We underestimate the impact of that. But I've looked at my own life and the lives of so many people that I've had to work with or coach. Every time that I have lost money, it has something to do with my level of knowledge about that thing that I wanted to do. Every time you lose money, it has something to do with your level of knowledge around that thing that you're doing. What you see on the left is not just Nigeria's problem. When you talk to the people in the United States and they tell you about insider trading, even among their senators, their government people themselves, They get information about what's going to happen, and then they, including people like Nancy Pelosi, they offload. And then a week or so after that, the bank that they bought the stocks, collapses. So this is not a Nigerian thing, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you. I do agree that the policies can be better. It's much better in some of these other countries than here in Nigeria. But it's also not like 100% easy. Like if you go to the US, you're talking about the US and all that. Because as rosy as US sounds now, the data as of August this year, just last month, no, as of September last month, is that 65% of Americans are just one paycheck away. 65% are living hand to mouth, and that they are just one paycheck away to becoming homeless. Which brings us to the point that we made on an earlier masterclass, that this system, there's a system, there's an economic system, a financial system that we found ourselves in. We didn't create that system. It is there. And that system was not designed for you and me to be free. That system was not designed for us to be debt-free. That system was designed to keep us just sharing this kind of stories that we're sharing, from one failure to the other, and then until people die and they never scratch their potential. So we have to be aware of that. So all the things that we have by the left here, they may not go anytime soon. But what I encourage myself and I encourage others to do is, in spite of this thing that we found ourselves in, the kind of policies, the integrity problems, the currency fluctuations, the difficulty in trusting investment vehicles and platforms, because all of us have lost money in real estate. Okay, I have a personal story where, we bought 23 plots of land somewhere, paid them everything that they asked for, including the development fee that they were asking. So we paid that like in December. And then by March, they sold the land that we bought. They sold them. And they're asking us to go to court, which is something, something I never, ever dreamt that I was going to. And I trusted. Everything looked so good. I trusted. We did the power of attorney, paid everything that we were supposed to, went to the land and registered. So all of us have had our thumbs and fingers burnt, but we can't say because of that we would give up. Because remember, building family wealth is a marathon, it's a journey. And that journey involves so many risks and so many certain failures. And the only time that you should be concerned is when you give up, because you lost money in shares, you lost money in real estate. I've lost money in every possible way you can imagine. All these things there at the left. I have lost money in all of these things and every possible way you can imagine. Yet, I still believe that there are many positive things that are happening and that can happen. And part of why we have a community like this is to share experiences. And then I asked us whether anybody had, apart from all this negative, because it can't be all negative, some positive things. And then some of us said, yeah, we have some positive things, because I lost money, but I've also made so much money. I've lost money in stock market. I've also made a lot of money in stock market. I've lost money in land, but I have not given up on land, because there's no way that everybody here should not buy land. And start with owning your own house, and then plan to have, residential or commercial units or something that you're going to rent. I met a man in Lagos. We met in a bank. The guy had, as of that time, like 2,800 or something like that units in Lagos. Like this face me, I face you, and all these small, whatever, 2,800. He doesn't need to work. He just collects. I mean, he can never be poor all his life. Yet, if you see this man, you will not think he has money. It's extremely simple. And of course, you don't find people like that on social media. And he had just gone to deposit 600 million in Lagos, over there. And that man should be, as at the time I met him, that man should be like in his late 40s, early 50s. So, yes, negative things are happening, but don't let the bad experiences you've had blind you to the opportunities that are there, because that's exactly what the enemy wants. To say, okay, I've had very, very bad experiences. I've lost land, therefore I won't buy land again. I've lost money in stock market, therefore I won't buy money. That would be the worst ever kind of thinking. But rather, you want to reframe your experience. What are you going to do differently? What worked in the past that you can still tweak in the present? What is working? Where is the economy? Because the reason that we do strategy for businesses is to find the trends, to scan the environment, to find out. Some of you here are familiar with the pest analysis, and some even have pestle analysis. What are the political trends? What are the economic trends? What are the social cultural trends? Because the children who were born in the 90s and then in the 2000s are very, very different breed of human beings from the ones like us born in the 60s and 70s. So how are these things changing? How are technologies changing, AI and all that? So the reason you do that is you want to find out what's going on, so that based on that understanding, you can now say what is the best approach. As for risk, there will always be risk. And the way pyramid schemes and get rich quick schemes is anybody who brings an investment to you and tells you it does not have a risk. Run for your life. But why we do things like this is to gain enough insight and education to be able to minimize the risk, not to eliminate it. And then for some reason, the law of averages also works for people building wealth. It's not usually possible that you'll make 30 investments and then all 30 will go well. So you also have to manage your expectations as you are saving and investing. It's not possible. But what I've discovered in my own experience is that if I do 10 investments, I typically would lose like 7, or maybe they will not do, whatever. But the 2 or the 1 or the 3 that survive do incredibly well. They cover for the other losses. So if there's one attitude that I would like all of us in this particular masterclass to develop, is having a very healthy attitude toward failed investments and failed objectives, knowing how to manage our expectations with regards to dealing with risks, and then constantly scanning our environment, scanning our skill sets to find out what is the best possible investment to do now, and how can I minimize the risk, instead of saying, oh, okay, the whole place is bad, nothing is working, people don't have integrity. If you go to Ghana, it's the same thing. If you go to Tanzania, they are complaining about the same thing. If you go to Egypt, are horrible. If you go to America, terrible. Because it's the same financial system. The World Bank the International Monetary Fund. They're the people, it's the same Bretton Woods financial system that the whole world is running. It's only Russia that is trying to take itself out of it and all that. I don't know how it's going for them, over there. But ours is, how can we understand the system well and then ask God for wisdom to be able to operate in that system successfully? God says he teaches our hands to prosper. And then many times, if we actually listen to him, he can advise us. When I lost that money with Nospetco, the $100,000 in savings, God was speaking, but the money was blinding my eye because 9%, 10% every month. So he just quenched the voice of God. I said, let me do it, and then the money went. But God spoke. God actually told me, be careful, don't do that thing. But I followed everybody because all the people, my friends in Shell at that time, they were all doing it. Everybody was doing it. And then they were showing me the alerts. They were showing me lands, hectares of land that they bought through investing in Nospetco. So I didn't listen to my heart, and I put that money there and I lost everything. So understanding that we live in a fallen world, understanding that the financial system of the world was not designed to make you happy, was not designed for you to succeed. Therefore, you want to be as knowledgeable as possible. And then pray for guidance, like I do, and also manage your expectations with regard to risk, because there will always be risks. So I think this has been a very important conversation. Does anyone else have a question or something to add to this? The challenges will be there, but the opportunities are also there. So never, ever process challenges without processing opportunities, because they are always, like I put them side by side on these slides, there are always the other side. Everything, you can't have bad and not have good. So often, if you turn the bad, there's a side that is good. And also you can't have good without having the bad. There are two sides. So what becomes important is what you focus on, processing both of them as two sides, not just one side. Everything cannot be all bad just because you had some bad experience, with investing and saving. There's also some good. Yeah, any additional contribution to this or question?
Yes, there's a contribution. My name is Dixon.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a trainer in happiness. I remember meeting you in 2020 in Ogudu because I used to be a trainer there. Mine was more of a goal. I remember then writing out things that I want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years, which is what changed my life. I wrote things that I want to achieve from a book I read. So I started planning. From there, I got an opportunity to work in a gym in happiness. From there, I started making money. I invested in some companies. I bought dollar then. I even had an investment in fish farming currently. So and everything's moving well for me. Then I bought dollar when dollar was around 500 to 600. I bought like a million of it because someone advised me to do that, to have a foreign reserve. That was what I did then. Then I also have money in fish. If that's what the fish having it now. But everything is going fine for me.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that
Fantastic.
is what I want to hear.
There you go. Just
Yeah, thank you.
thank you so much, Dixon, for sharing that. Yeah, it can't be all
Yeah,
bad.
thank you.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. I'm glad I heard this
Yeah.
because it cannot be all bad. So there's currency hedging, which a lot of people do. One of my clients is into IT consulting. So they buy their materials in dollars, but his clients pay in Naira. And you won't believe what this guy went into. So he started exporting. I think it was charcoal or ginger or something like that. I didn't know how in the world, he found that, but this guy was extremely comfortable. And so he found a way to earn foreign currency. If he didn't do that, his business would die. And then there are a lot of people, young people today, they're living here in Nigeria, working remotely and earning in dollars. And they're not complaining about these same things that we older folk are complaining about, because they are earning in dollars. And then even if they pay them $2,000 or $3,000 a month for what they are doing, and then you multiply it by that 1,000 naira, these children are making 3 million. So there's always a way, 3 million a month, which their contemporaries make in a year. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing and confirming that it cannot always be bad. But the thing is, we should just pray that our eyes should be open to opportunities, even in it, because God doesn't leave us in situations where our backs are to the wall. There's always a way, but we've got to find, to grow our skills in finding that. Okay, so let's quickly go to just round off with the framework for creating a family wealth building culture. Now, I deliberately asked us this question, and we went through this because this is to introduce us into the conversation about making wealth building a culture, making it our way of life as a family, instead of something that we do. It's something that we are, something, just the way we live. From the time we wake up as a family to bed, to all our activities and meetings, it becomes a culture. There are 5 steps to be able to do that. So let's take it one by one. So the first step is sitting down as a family to define what the financial goals are. And this really needs to be open and honest. My wife and I were in a radio station a couple of weeks ago, appeared in a radio program. And the anchor asked a question around family finance. Because one of the things I find very interesting is that many married people seem to find it difficult, to be open, to be transparent, with their conversations around money. And I remember having a colleague in those days in one of the companies. I don't want to mention which one that I worked in, because she could listen to this. She built a house, finished building her house, and her husband had no idea that, she built a house and she had a house. And she did not want to tell him and all that. So, and then I cannot speak for them because I do not know what circumstances led her to do that. But I'm just saying that it might be very difficult to build wealth as a family if there is no openness, if there are things like that. I've also had a situation where the woman was working, the man wasn't working. The man just sat at home, just wasn't working, wasn't interested. So it was a woman who was, these things are like fairy tale, but they do happen. And if I hadn't experienced it, I would never know that a man would stay at home watching TV and all that, and then the woman would be working. But that was the situation. And but the guy became so irresponsible that he would stay at home and start having affairs, with people, house girl and things like that, while the woman was out there, working. And so he was really financially irresponsible for a long time. So the woman saved some money and brought to me and said, because of their children, she doesn't see this man changing. and she wants to be able to set up something, for the children. Very wise woman. So in that kind of condition and situation, I wasn't too rigid in saying, okay, your husband must know about this and things like that. I thought it was, giving her situation, and I knew their situation very well, that if she gave that man that money, he would spend it on other women, and then he would just waste it. So I helped her set up something that turned out to become something very, very big. I don't think that the man knows about it. So there may be exceptions like that. But if people have to build generational wealth, you want to have open and honest conversation with the family members. What are the financial goals? What are you here for as a family? What are you looking to do? Okay. So it might include, okay, we need to save for education, we need to buy homes and things like that. So, and then making sure that everybody, including all the children, that they have their input. There are few things that unite families as the conversation around money, around financial goals, or as conversations around, when a family have the same vision. This thing can unite your family very, very strongly. The second step is to develop a shared vision. This is where you can actually do a vision board together as a family, where the children, the parents, everybody paints the picture of the future that the family is looking forward to. What happens when daddy and mommy retire? In the Western society, sometimes they put their aged parents in what do they call them? These nursing homes, which for most cultures in Africa, that's abomination, to put your parents in that place. But these are some of the things that are discussed. Having a shared vision of where the family is going. So a family might say, for instance, that in the next 10 generations of this family, we don't want money to become a conversation again. And actually, it can be done. We don't want money to be a conversation, but we rather want everyone born in this family to be engaged in what God has called us to do as a family. So it could be that your family is called into education, because you hear about Stanford, you hear about Harvard. They were all started by families. They were all started by families. And so it could be that you are seeing a vision of your family being into education or into health, medical practice. And this is the impact you want to create across several generations, or you see them into politics and things like that. So you develop a shared vision. The third step is to set up the values that will guide the vision, all right? So financial values such as saving, investing, living within means, avoiding unnecessary debt and things like that. I remember when I was leaving Shell, calling the children and then my wife, and we sat around the table and then said, okay, that our financial situation is going to change temporarily. What do we have to do to make sure that we don't incur medical costs, hospital costs, from accident and things like that? We had all that kind of conversation. And then we said, okay, we used to go for summer holidays in the US, in the UK. And then we said, for some time, while we're trying to find stability, it means that we're not going to go. So you set the values and the principles that will make it possible for that vision to happen. The third step in building family wealth culture is education and empowerment. Okay, just like Dixon told us, Dixon had to read a book. He had to study. It was the insight from books. It was the insight from self-education that gave him the knowledge to be able to do currency hedging, to be able to do all those other investments. Because the first investment you must do is actually in your brain. If you start investment outside, if you start investment in real estate, in stock market, in forex trading, cryptocurrency, whatever it is, if you start investment there, first of all, before you do it in your brain, that investment will die. It will fail. So the primary investment is your brain, your knowledge, understanding how it works, and then you can invest better. So I've been in the Nigerian stock market. This year makes it 20 years. I made serious mistakes, starting. But now I've learned a lot because over time I've had a lot of education. I've asked questions. I've been coached. So I am much more comfortable now. And it's still the same stock market. Nothing has changed from, say, the insider trading and the whatever that went. But now I am far much more competent. Not because the stock market has changed, but I've made better investments in my mind. And by the way, if you haven't invested in the book I wrote recently about investing and earning in the stock market, the Nigerian stock market has been doing incredible things in the past 1 month or 2 months. I might still have that kind of run. Risks are there. And of course, the book also discusses the issues of the risk and all that. You can buy that book today. You can just buy that and then download it. Williams, you can put the link to the book on the chat and also in the WhatsApp group so people can do that. So educate yourself. Spend time in forums like this. This is free. You are not being charged for this, but I'm sure you're learning a lot hearing other people's stories and then us putting it together. The most important education when it comes to building wealth is your financial intelligence, financial literacy, building, investing in yourself, and also teaching the children. When our children were much younger, I told that story in my book, my first book, Financial Freedom for Every Youth. Please also put it in the chat, the link to it, so people can have a go at it. I told the story about how the children they felt the peer pressure for, because each time they went to their school at that time, they had their classmates. The in thing at that time were video games. Is it video games? Yes, computer games. That's what it was. And so their children will be talking about the computer games that they're playing. They will bring all these things to class and all that. Every day, computer game. So one day, I didn't want to buy computer games, for the children. I didn't want to buy all those things, PS, I don't remember the names because I wasn't even interested. So one day I called the children and I said, all right, these computer games that your friends are playing and then talking about, let's talk about it. I said, number one, somebody made those games, right? They said, yes. Somebody created them. Somebody wrote the code for those things. They said, yes. All right. So I said, now, so you have two parties. There is the person who created the game, who wrote the code. And then there is the person, your friends, who play it. So I asked them, the person who created the code and the people who are playing the game, who is much more powerful? They said that, of course, the person who created the code. I said, yeah, the person who created the code controls the emotions of the people who are playing it, controls their moods, controls everything about them. He's already written the code. So while he's there sleeping in his house, the people are playing, and then they are playing the script and the code he's written, and the emotions are messed up. They are happy, they are sad, and all that. They're exhilarated. So the person who created the code is stronger. Then number two, I asked them, who does the money flow to? The person who creates the code or the person who is playing the game? And then they said that, of course, it's the person who created the computer game, that the money will go to the person. Then number three, I asked them, which one would you rather be? The person who creates the code or the person who is playing the computer game? And then three of them said, we want to be the people who create the code. That was many, many years ago. And that conversation significantly affected the destinies of the children, what they are today and what they are doing today. So educate and empower family members, including the children, expose them to financial education. Rich Dad Poor Dad was very good. We all read that in the house. The Richest Man in Babylon was very good. We all read that in the house. And then many books like that. And then the final step is to now begin to implement those things, put all those things to action and, and then be patient. Put those things to action and then be patient while you're building the wealth. So these are the 5 steps to creating a family wealth building culture. Part of the step 3 is actually to keep a wealth journal. I'm looking for mine. It should be somewhere around here. So it's a journal that you use, as a wealth journal. So in that journal, you're monitoring, you have your assets. Of course, you can also do these things digitally, but I like to write these things down. That's where you have the shared vision. So in the next 5 years, you intend to accumulate this kind of assets. In the next 1 year, you intend to acquire this kind of asset and all that. So it's all written down. And as things are changing, and as you are learning things, you're putting it down in the diary, in the journal. And why it's good is that even after I'm gone, the next generation, the children, their mother can look at the journal and then they will not be lost, when it comes to the finances, they will not be lost. So make wealth building a culture and make it a family adventure. It is sweeter and it's much more powerful and it's easier when it's done together as a family than when each person individually is doing their own. This person is working there in Zenith Bank doing his own thing. This one is hustling in Malaysia, this one, and then there's no whatever. But when you actually do it together, it can be very powerful. All right. This is where we'll end that. All right. So tell me, what questions, what contributions, what insights have you gotten today from what we've said? All right, thanks. The link to the stock market book, How to Invest and Earn in the Stock Market, that also talks about the risks and how to manage them and all that. So that link is in the chat, right now. Okay, so so as we round off, what have you found very insightful? What was your aha moment today? Or what other contribution do you have or questions? So this is the time for that. Has this been helpful? If so, let me know. As usual, what did you find very helpful? You can unmute, you can raise your hand and speak, and you can also type in the chat. Okay, no question. Okay, so everyone, please type in the chat. What was your aha moment today? What did it for you today? What is one thing you're working out of this masterclass today that you're going to implement? Type in the chat, please, or raise your hand to speak. Okay. Keep investing, get education, and learn from mistakes. That's powerful. Yep. Okay. Not giving up and being persistent, right?
Please, can I make a comment
Yes.
on the question of family investing together? I would just say too that as much as it sounds fantastic, it may not work in all situations, just like the spouse own. Because if you like this, somebody is in Malaysia and all of that. If the person in Malaysia is thinking of building wealth with family members here, and the family members here think is their own entitlement, what is being brought here, it won't work. So I just wanted to point that out because you have to be heading the same direction genuinely. It goes back to that integrity. So everything just goes back to that integrity, experience, and of course, courage. So I just wanted to say, we don't just say, oh, because we are to do together. There are family members you can't do money together, even if they are spouses.
Yeah. So that's why this framework begins with that first and second. It's a step. If you can't even have an honest conversation around it, it can work. And then if you don't have a shared vision, it can work. And then building family wealth does not necessarily mean that it's not saying that everybody is going to have one common purse and that everybody will be doing exactly the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
But families can be very, very powerful when they have, because come to think about it, family was God's concept. And it's actually intended that if people do things, in ideal situation, it's easier. In fact, not very far from where I am now, there's a family who is doing something like that. And it is just amazing how very, very prosperous, they are, running some businesses together as a family. They have structured their partnerships, and because that you're doing it as a family does not mean that you won't have your is it MEMAT? They call it memorandum of what's the articulation or something like that. MEMAT. It does not mean that
Way of understanding.
Yeah, it does not mean that. Yes, it does not mean that you will not have corporate governance. It does not mean that you will not have, but because many people don't understand it, they think it's just, okay, when you say family wealth building, that it just means like communism. We're not talking about communism, where everybody, some will be working and some will be eating and things like that. It's actually a very powerful corporate governance structure where everybody is bringing their skill and everyone has equity according to what they bring in. Yeah, but you're right. If you can't do the first one, like having this open and honest conversation, and then developing a shared vision, it can work. That's why it's a step, is gradual. You can't jump 1, 2, and start talking about 3 and 4 and 5. It can't happen. So you are right in a sense, but often people are not trained, in these things, and they don't know that they can do it. And so the guy in Malaysia does not know that it is possible to articulate a memorandum, and it is possible to have corporate governance that says this is what each person brings. This is the overall goal. And this is what each person brings to it. And then this is the equity. And this is how to manage our relationships. When that doesn't happen, then you're right. It's not possible. So I totally agree. Okay. All right. So some other aha moments here. Right. We should not forget the law of averaging. Calista says. That says, yes, they need to build wealth as a family instead of as individuals. The synergy. Yep. Lanier says, before you invest in any money-making instrument, invest in your brain. Absolutely. Okay. Stephen says, I should not give up even when the success is being delayed. And most importantly, says Walter, building one's mental literacy. And then Esther says that every system is a two-sided coin, good and bad. So we must keep investing. Awesome. All right. So thank you all very much. This is where we would bring today's song to a landing. I want to thank you for coming, and especially for those of you who shared your experiences. That is what this community is about. And let's continue to learn and then continue to grow. And then above all, continue to practice the principles that we are learning. So thank you all. And we'll see each other again this same time on Saturday. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, there's a lot going on there. Please do that. Williams, resend the subscription link on the WhatsApp chat. So just click on it and then click the...
Hello, sir. Can I quickly ask a question?
Hold on. So when you subscribe, please click that notification bell so that anytime, for instance, the replay is published or some other information that I'd like you to know is published, like the radio episodes are going on within the week. We have like 4 episodes every week. They're all loaded there, but you wouldn't know if you don't subscribe and hit that bell. So you're going to get that subscription URL, and then so subscribe and then hit the notification bell. So everybody, please do that this evening as soon as we finish. Meanwhile, Williams, if you get the link, you can put it in the chat here and also in the WhatsApp group while we're going on. All right, someone has a quick question. Who was that?
Taiwo. It's Taiwo.
Okay, Taiwo. Yeah.
My question is that you talked so much about this issue of engaging a personal coach, that it takes us faster than personal learning. As a thing I found a bit challenging, because one or two that I've encountered in the past, though you just taught us tonight that we should be comfortable with we should learn to be comfortable with failure, that even when things does not work out, we should not give up. So what is your take on that?
On what? On hiring a coach?
Yes.
Yeah, you already know my take about that because that's what I do myself. But I don't just hire anybody. So you also have to study who you are hiring. Look at what the person has done. If possible, talk to whoever the person has worked with. I don't just hire anybody. Before I hired Billie Jean, the guy I said, charged me $10,000 in San Diego. I had followed his content for at least 1 year or 2 years, and he was very, very consistent. Before I hired Dean Jackson, I had followed his content for about 4 years, extremely consistent. He wasn't like a fly in the pan. So look up the person you want to hire, go to their social media handles, look up their content, go to their Google review, read the because the person must have a review, So read what people are saying, that they have worked with them and things like that. So don't just, there's all kinds of people packaging themselves in social media as coaches and whatever. So you don't just give your money. So know who you want to hire. There are some really very excellent Nigerian coaches out there. Then some are very good, but they don't know how to coach. That's another thing. But they are better, the people who are actually in the field, they are better. So if you get someone like this, a woman called Niger Brand Chic, I think her name Nelly somebody. There's another woman that's very, very active on Facebook. Her name is Chioma. Is it Chioma or somebody? Yeah, I've even, because I followed her content for a while, so I had to recommend her to a client, and she had a very big job, with them. I had to recommend her, and then they hired her to do that because I had followed her, looked at their content. So you don't just give your money to anybody. And then this Nigerian guy that I hired, he was actually doing it. I'm still working with him. We met, when was it? Williams, when did we have our meeting with him? We met with him on Wednesday or something, and then we are meeting again. So, yeah, was it Wednesday? Yeah. So I had followed him, I had watched his content, and I had seen that he is getting results. So I said, hey, listen, how much is 1 hour of your time worth? He told me, I didn't price it. I just gave him the money. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay. So the quickest thing is find someone who is doing what you want to do. Whatever the person asks, give the person, provided that you can get results. Because the whole thing is about getting results. I don't want to waste my money on you if you can't get me the results. So hiring a coach is also a skill. You have to do the homework, find out who these people are, watch their, somebody can say she's a coach or he's a coach and doesn't have videos out there on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, everywhere. So you read from reading the person and then listening to also what other people say. You should be able to tell whether you are going to waste your money or whether the people. There are a couple of Nigerian young people, I think 2 or 3 of them I wasted money on. One, two, so she made an ad on Facebook. I responded out of curiosity. She ended up doesn't have Zoom. The day we were to get on Zoom, she couldn't. So she used WhatsApp video. It was just crazy. Was supposed to send something. The videos she sent me, some clips. It was just crazy. But I just said, okay, at least if I didn't hire her, because she made so much noise on social media, if I didn't hire her, I would never have known. So I had the same experience with another young man whom I paid. He just quoted his amount. I paid him. He was useless. He just downloaded something from internet. He didn't even know what he was talking about. So hiring a coach is a skill. You have to do that work. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so have a good night, everyone. I love you all, and I'll see you again Saturday. Bye for now.
Good night. Thank you so much.